Assembly Republican leader Will Barclay, thank you so much for being here this week. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So Governor Cuomo has resigned. At the same time, the Assembly has conducted an impeachment probe against him for the last 5 months. And now there's this question of can they or can they not still impeach the governor since he's going to be out of office sometime next week? What's your position on that? Do you think the Assembly should move forward with impeachment at this point?
Yeah, I feel pretty strongly that we ought to continue forward. And there's a few reasons why I feel that. First of all, we've spent 5 months and millions of dollars on the investigation, and it just seems kind of a waste just to throw that all away, particularly when we're on the cusp of, I think, coming out with the report and actually taking an impeachment vote in the Assembly. So I think that's important. But I think really, ultimately, New Yorkers want answers. And it's not just about the sexual harassment. We do have the AG's report on that, but there's a lot of other scandals that have been surrounding the governor, like the nursing home fatalities and the potential cover-up of those fatalities, and using government resources for his book that he wrote during the height of the pandemic and got $5.1 million for. So those scandals need to be addressed. And I think, people want answers, particularly those who maybe lost loved ones in nursing homes. They want accountability. And so that's one reason, two reasons, I guess, why we ought to do it. Ultimately, the other question is, and this is, I think, less of a concern, but certainly is relevant, is the fact that if he is impeached, my understanding he can't run for office again. And I don't know if the governor would be able to do with all the stuff that's surrounding him now if he ever make a political comeback, but this certainly would shut the door on that if he was impeached.
And I think I saw on Wednesday that all of the Republican members of the Judiciary Committee feel this way as well. They want the impeachment to go forward, correct?
Yeah, I think they want very much so. And again, I've never talked about the investigation with them, but I have asked them numerous times how they felt things were going. Some felt like the probe could have gone faster or the investigation could go faster, but they feel strongly with all the efforts that's put in that we need to bring this to a conclusion.
And Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie earlier this week was asked if he needed 76 Democratic votes to bring the articles of impeachment to the floor, 76 being half the chamber. But he said that he really didn't need 76 Democrats because obviously Republicans would be on board for impeachment as well. Is that correct? What's the sense in your conference right now? Do you think that they are pretty unanimously aligned in terms of impeaching the governor at this point?
Well, yes, certainly in our conference, I haven't heard anyone say they were opposed to it or defending the governor. But for that matter, I haven't heard it on the Democratic side either. So I think if you brought an impeachment vote today, you might get a unanimous vote in favor of doing that. The only thing that's really changed now is obviously the governor's resigned. And so maybe people's views have changed and don't think that we ought to pursue this. But I'm not even sure that's the case. And I do think it's a bipartisan feel out there that we should somehow get accountability with this governor.
So you're a lawyer. I want to pose this legal question to you. There have been a lot of rumblings of can they even pursue impeachment since the governor has resigned? What do you think about that? Do you think the Assembly should move forward even if it's not possible, might create some litigation there? Do you have a sense of can the Assembly even do this now?
So my understanding, I haven't read a memo on it, although I'm a lawyer. I would say I'm far from an expert on impeachment, but we do have attorneys on staff, fortunately, and they advised me that you could move forward, but they have not had a chance to actually provide a legal analysis of why they came to that conclusion. So I wait to see that, but my understanding you could do it, for the reasons that I just explained, and one of the major reasons is to prevent him from running for office again.
So switching gears here, you've been in the Assembly since Governor Andrew Cuomo started his first 3 terms. You were in it actually before that as well. I'm wondering, what would you like to see changed once he resigns and Kathy Hochul takes the governorship? What dynamic would you like the legislature to have with the governor's office moving forward?
Well, interestingly enough, both Governor Spitzer, who resigned in disgrace, and now Governor Cuomo, they had a style where they didn't really work collaboratively with the legislature and certainly not with the Republicans. I was hopeful when Governor Cuomo started that he was going to be a real contrast to Spitzer, and it did appear like that was going to be the case. He certainly brought some professionalism back to the executive staff, and I thought there was some collaboration with members of the legislature. Unfortunately, that sort of drifted, and obviously I think ultimately it was part of his downfall because he ultimately didn't have a friend left politically in the legislature. So I would like to see Kathy Hochul work more as a partner with the legislature and not necessarily have to be so partisan all the time. Obviously, as a Republican in a heavily Democratic state, we'd like to have Republicans' thoughts and voices heard. And it's not always, it doesn't necessarily have to be on big ideological issues. Obviously, we're going to have differences. Republicans and Democrats always have differences, but there's a few things could change. And I cited this example the other day about bail reform. I don't think anyone in my conference was dead set against any type of bail reform. We just felt that what was instituted went way too far. Now we think there ought to be some reform of that reform. And it doesn't have to be crazy. I mean, one thing we suggest is having judges have discretion, decide whether the defendant is a danger to the community before letting him out without bail. So there's a reform that I think if you ask most New Yorkers, they wouldn't say that's a radically Republican idea or radically Democrat idea. They think that's a common sense idea. So I hope Kathy Hochul understands that and will look forward to working with the legislature on whole, but also Republicans, because we do have a lot of good ideas of how to make this state a better place to live.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the dynamic changes when Kathy Hochul takes that governorship and how she works with the legislature and her governing style over the state of New York. But we do have to leave it there. Assembly Republican Leader Will Barclay, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, Dan.